little of green.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We'd like to invite everyone to grab a seat. We're about to start today's exciting program. My name is Howard Levitt. I'm the acting superintendent at San Francisco Maritime National Historical Park, as well as the chief of interpretation and education here at the Golden Gate National Parks. And it's so wonderful to have you all here and back for the third day, for some of you, second day for others, here at Turning the Tide. And what a day we had yesterday. It was just awesome. And those of you who were able to join us last night had a special treat. We had a spectacular performance by aerial acrobats Bandaloo, which was just stunning. And then, to me, even cooler, we had a performance by Adam Gardner of Guster. And Adam gave us two wonderful pieces last night, and he left the audience wanting more. And so, is there a better way to start a day than with a song? And we'd like to invite Adam to start us off today.
Thanks. Just quickly, for those of you that were there and heard me talk about reverb, I wanted to mention Green Music Group, which is a coalition that we recently formed, actually just the beginning of the year, of artists and musicians, fans, and industry leaders to establish greening guidelines within the industry, but also to reach millions and millions of music fans around the world. Some of the founding members, just to mention quickly, are Dave Matthews Band, Maroon 5, Linkin Park, The Roots, Willie Nelson, Sheryl Crow, Bonnie Raitt, Bare Naked Ladies, My Band Guster, Warner Music Group, Brushfire Records, Shoreline Amphitheater here in San Francisco, a venue, Comcast Center in Boston, Wolf Trap National Park for the Performing Arts, American Airlines Arena in Florida, Brooklyn Bowl in New York, and Verizon Wireless. We actually also have a challenge happening that just launched last week. It's an 18-week series of 9 challenges, 2 weeks each, and people can win prizes, and you can actually, probably for doing simple actions that probably all of you in this room are doing every day anyway. So I encourage you to check it out because you can actually win a car. It's a hybrid. A Honda Insight Hybrid, so if you want to go win a car just for being who you are, you might want to check it out. So anyway, and actually Cleve came down to the Green Music Group launch in L.A. During the Grammy weekend, so it was really great. Okay, so this is a song from my band Guster. I don't normally play solo. This is my third solo performance ever. You saw my second last night. So here we go. Ramona, where have you been? I couldn't go to sleep till you came in. Ramona, you're Miss Oklahoma, and you Miss Oklahoma. I'll get you what you want. There were days when our refrain would brighten our corner of Hickory Lane, when you would sing that song for me, just like your favorite singer. Ramona, why'd you have to be so nice? A wink and a girly smile. And why'd you have to punch my eye? That was something. But did you want me to stay? When I was younger and thought to myself, I never dreamed I'd become like this. A wink of your fingers, the end of the argument, anything for your love. Cause there were days when our refrain
brighten our corner of Hickory Lane, when you would sing that song for me. The only one you know, but I know now, not from the start. We're going to pieces, we're falling apart. So come and sing that song for me, just like your favorite singer.
Thank you, Adam Gardner. You know, it just feels right to be here in a chapel to hear a song, doesn't it? Well, we have as I say, we have a marvelous day ahead of us here. And we have panelists of great renown. We have moderators, session moderators of great achievement. We begin today with someone who has certainly turned the tide, in this case, by swimming the currents of the world's greatest rivers and promoting their environmental health. He will be introduced by the co-founder and managing partner of Convergence Media Productions, whom we met yesterday. Please welcome back to the stage Doug McConnell.
Okay. Thanks. Oh, well, good morning, everybody. You're all up and awake. I don't know about you. I swam San Francisco Bay today, so I like to get off to an early start. There are probably three things I'd like to be able to do in my next lifetime, at least three. One, I'd like to be able to sing and play the guitar. So, but I'm going to have to wait for another incarnation. And also, I'd like to be a much better swimmer than I am. So it's wonderful to hear the music, to listen to the guitar, and to introduce Martin here. And let me say just a couple of words about our first sort of speaker, and then we're going to have some questions. From Slovenia, Martin Strel. You know, it's just hard to encapsulize a brief introduction around these enormous achievements. He is a professional marathon swimmer and one of the most elite extreme athletes in the world. There's no question about that. Holds 4 Guinness Book of World Records in distance swimming, all of them performed on the world's greatest rivers. Now, living here in Marin County, we're not talking about Corte Madera Creek, though I'm sure that immediately leaps to mind. We're talking about things like the Danube, the Yangtze, the Mississippi, and this little river in South America called the Amazon. Martin has swum them all. And it's an amazing, he's really surpassed all the boundaries of sports. But he's doing this with some serious goals in mind. I'm going to talk about that. You know, some things that are terrifically important, bringing together individuals, nations, and even continents behind his environmental motto, and that is swimming for peace, for friendship, and for clean waters. But before we meet Martin, let's take a look at a trailer that sets this all up and describes some of the feats. So maybe we can roll the video.
Exploration of the world's most unreachable places has become quite popular and challenging in the last decades. Some climb Everest, some sail around the world, some walk to the North and South Poles, and some row across the oceans. And here is a man of action in the water who swims the greatest rivers on Earth. The Danube, Mississippi, Parana, Yangtze, and recently the Amazon. Who is this guy? His name is Martin Strel. Some people describe him as a daredevil, fishman, human fish, or even the craziest man in the world. The greatest marathon swimmer in the world, Guinness record breaker and promoter of peace, friendship, and clean waters. In August 2000, he became the first person to swim the Blue Danube, 3,004 kilometers. A Guinness World Record. In July 2001, he broke the record by swimming 504 kilometers, non-stop in 84 hours and 10 minutes. In September 2002, he became the first person to swim the entire Mississippi River from its headwaters in Minnesota to the Gulf of Mexico, 3,797 kilometers, another Guinness World Record. In December 2003, he became the first person on the Parana to make it all the way from Iguazu Falls to the center of Buenos Aires on the Rio de la Plata. In July 2004, he successfully swam 4,003 kilometers of the Yangtze River in China, the third longest river in the world. Another Guinness World Record. And recently, in April 2007, he made history by swimming 5,268 kilometers of the largest, longest, and most dangerous river in the world, the Amazon. Yet another Guinness World Record. One man, one river, 66 days. Inside 3 million square miles of rainforest, with thousands of friendly and not so friendly indigenous tribes and countless unknown dangers. Sounds impossible? It is. And that's exactly why he's doing it. He is achieving the impossible. And he did it. Once and forever.
Wow. Wow. It was great seeing the picture of you and Mark Spitz. That guy can barely even paddle. And the last thing, I want you to bring Martin up now. The last thing I have to say, it's wonderful to get to do the kind of work I've done over the years, getting to meet incredible people, be humbled by virtually everybody I meet. Certainly Martin is very high, especially because I also read in your bio that you can play the guitar. Martin Strel, ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, good morning. I'm Martin Strel, Slovenian professional marathon swimmer, and I've been professional marathon swimmer 32 years. I swam all the way with slogan, swimming for peace, friendship, and clean waters. And I think today we need peace, we need friendship, especially clean waters or drinking waters. The news, the dirty water kills more people than any war. It's enough for me. My goal in life is very simple because I'm just a normal bloke who would like to achieve my own dreams, which are connected to water. I simply love what I do, even if it is dangerous, risky, even if my life has been in some deadly situation a couple of times. Because swimming the greatest rivers on earth isn't simple for me. But believe me, it's beautiful, dramatic, epic, maybe for somebody heroic. That's been my dream since I was a kid, and I was always looking at my personal challenges where I can go beyond the limits. And the rivers I swam so far opened my curiosity and gave me the inspiration to swim and explore more and more. Most of the people couldn't believe it. It happened until it happened. The Amazon is known as the largest, longest, and the most dangerous river in the world. I decided to risk my life and make a history. For me, this was a story of achieving the impossible. I wanted to show the world that people can achieve their dreams and goals with hard work and persistence. I also promoted the importance of preservation of the rainforest, the biggest oxygen producer in the world. And what is my contribution? What contribution I'm going to leave the world? First, to raise awareness for clean water, restore and protect rainforests all over the world, and teach future generations. But now it's a question how. How I'm doing this is, first, to promote movie Big River Man with this contribution in mind. Travel the world inspiring people to see that the impossible is possible. To create a non-profit foundation for awareness and teaching. And for being a speaker to carry this message around the world. I would like to say a little more. So what separates me from most men is that I really see the boundaries or limits. If I want to do something, I do it. As a result, there's no profound answer as to why I allow this kind of life so much. By digging deep within myself for the meaning of the work I do, I have come to understand how I want to try and inspire other people to dig deep for the meaning in their lives. I prove to the world, to the nature, and I prove to myself that I can do extreme. Because it's not just about the swimming. It goes way further. It goes beyond the integration of intellectual, physical, and emotional stimulation. It's about hearing to make a difference in the world and go beyond desire. And what is my answer to the world situation and becoming better? It's simply to say vegetarianism. Because it's not for spiritual reason, health reason, or religion reason. It's because it's the right thing to do. It takes so much energy to make a hamburger. For every one person who becomes a vegetarian, 16 starving people can eat. So today, I'm ready, clean again. After many sickness, I got a lot of bacteria. But today I can say I'm happy. If you ask me, is it possible to do this again? I can do this again.
Over here. Martin, well, let's sit and chat for a couple of minutes, and we have a few minutes maybe to take some questions from the crowd. The one thing I'm concerned about is I was going to ask you is you're getting. Come on over here. Let's sit up here.
I'm coming.
That's right.
But don't forget your picture.
Oh yeah, no, you got to remember the picture. Yeah. So next time you're going to swim the Amazon upstream, I take it, right?
I would like to see you first.
Yeah,
if you can do this, I can do too.
I would be there watching you and cheering you on, but I think
That was question when I swam Mississippi. I met this American guy who swam all the lakes in the United States, Jim Dreyer. He was telling me, look, Martin, if you reach Gulf of Mexico, I will swim from Gulf of Mexico to Itasca. It didn't happen, believe me. Yeah.
He couldn't believe you were actually going to get down the Mississippi all the way, and he's still practicing his upriver swimming, I think, before he gets up the Mississippi.
That's a good idea. Thank you very much. I didn't think about this. Maybe it could be my new project.
Very good. Well, let me ask you that. I mean, very quickly, if you look ahead, I mean, you've done these extraordinary athletic feats, and you have a real commitment to the environment, and you want to make a difference and bring people together, do you have another project out there? Is there another dream that you now have, or is that something you're working on?
Yeah, I have a lot of dreams to change this world, because today it's very important. Global warming is coming year 2012, for a very important year for all of us. You know, I swam all those rivers after the war. 2000. Then happened 9/11. I didn't know. I dedicated the swim to the people who died by 11 September. I was swimming against terrorism. Then the most pollution river in the world, Yangtze. That's terrible river. Chinese government don't like me so much. Don't talk so much, Martin, about our river. And but it's true, you know. And finally, Amazon. Why Amazon? I got a lot of news, not good news. Deforestation, cattle ranching. If we'll destroy this precious part of the world, we'll destroy it ourselves. So why is so important this part of the world? Not just oxygen and clean water. It's possible to find more than 200,000 different plants. We know just 4 or 5% of them. This is a question for scientists. For doctors, it's possible to find all the cures for terrible diseases today, like Alzheimer. You know, population is older and older. We have, just in the United States, more than 50 million people with Alzheimer. We have to find as soon as possible something good for these people. In the Amazon, it's possible to find, but if these people destroy this part of the world, we destroy it ourselves. So there's a lot of questions. It was before my swimming. But I was told everywhere, Martin, don't do this, you will die. Everything was against me, even people. Last 3 weeks, pirates followed us every day. What was question? Money. Money. My pockets are empty. I don't have money. I know about,
You never want to steal money from a swimmer.
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of questions. I'm just a swimmer. I would like to say we have this world this world is not so clean. My country, Slovenia, is a small country. It's one of the cleanest countries in the world. Maybe you can drink from the tap everywhere. This is good news for me. If I touch country first question is, can I drink straight from? Oh, don't drink. Can I drink from the tap? No. What can I do here? Yeah, North Minnesota. What a beautiful place. Drinking water everywhere. Yeah, go Louisiana. Don't drink like China. No, it's not. It's difficult to compare, but it's not so clean. Yeah.
Louisiana Tourist Bureau doesn't. Yeah. Let me just ask you, because I'm looking at our clock down here, and it ticks away with this sort of, determination. It's always ticking. Yes.
It's like a game here.
It's like, you look at this, and it's just kind of yelling at us. But if for the rest of us, one of the things about literally turning the tide is to bring us all together, not just to talk and to hear stories, but to leave here and do something. From your experience, we're all, none of us, probably anybody in this room is going to swim the Amazon or the Yangtze. What can we do now that you've experienced this and you're trying to encourage us to act? What would you recommend that the rest of us do?
This is a very good question. Thank you very much. My goal is to teach people about importance of keeping natural resources as clean water and rainforest and like. Look, nature can live without us. We can't live without nature. It's very simple. But most of the people don't understand this. India, it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. Ganges River, I swam just part of this river. It's quality of this water. Amoebas inside, everything is inside. What is possible to find in this world? If you go in China, Yangtze, it's not just Yangtze. Huanghe, many lakes. Chinese government, last year changed a little. Don't pay so much attention about pollution. China could destroy half of the world. India, even India. South American continent is very clean. Central America, pretty good. North America, with Canada, we can say pretty good too. Europe, half-half. Look, in Germany, biggest river in Europe, the Danube. In Germany, you can drink straight from the water, the Danube. If you go in Vienna, drink the Danube from the top is not so clean. Even though Austria is one of the cleanest, you can drink straight from the top too. Asia, Africa, where to drink, where to get water. It's problem in the bottled water. And drinking water could be very, very big problem for the future generation. Who could change this? You and me. First, we have to understand each other, what we need for future generations. We have to start now. Maybe it's too late, maybe not, we don't know. One man like me could change a little this world. I'm sure, because I'm speaker, I would like to teach, to be with small guys, with everyone, to visit. And because I've been traveling 143 different countries around the world till now. I understand this world pretty well, especially people, all the rules. But most of the people don't understand. They understand what is money. Everywhere is money important. If you go in South America, to say, go away, what do you do here in the middle of the forest? You will destroy. These people could kill you because they don't understand. I'm just simple guy who would like to change this world. Look, people knows me in South America. I'm friend. I'm swimmer, not football. This is not football. Football is South American God. But I'm part of these people too. People loves me. I'm not enemy. I'm not enemy. Martin, let's go. We can drink, we can dance, we can make fun. I would like to explain. I would like to build school, everything, to help people in this jungle. These people need this. And we have, so my new foundation. This is just small fund. What happened after when I finished Amazon? We got new fund. Prime Minister Jens Stoltenberg, Norway, you have $1 billion. That's not so small money for these people, because he's very smart and he knows very well what this world needs.
Martin, thank you very, very much. I would like to keep going with you. You and I are going to go take a little swim up the Sacramento, I think, today. But
look, I just would
it needs some help, by the way, in the Delta and a few other places.
Thank you very much. I just would like to say at the end, I'm here in San Francisco. I would like to see this city nice, one of the nicest cities in the world. Again, especially this view for Golden Gate. I've been here, but I'm going again to see this view.
Good.
I'm ready now. 100% clean. My body is, after 3 years, when I finish Amazon. I'm doing meditation 2 times a day to change my mind. Because this Amazon swim pretty destroyed me, my mind. I'm ready. But this feeling big career man could show me 2 bottles a day. But believe me, people never say me to be drunk. In my life, no. Okay. Movie, Hollywood, this is different. I drink wine, I like wine too. My wine is very special wine. Or driving drunk, never in my life. If you drink 2 cups a day, you're a heavy drinker?
Am I a heavy drinker?
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 cups a day, I do.
2 cups a day.
Well, listen, Mr. Witt, it's been a complete delight to get to meet you yesterday and talk and to be here with you this morning. You've gotten us off to a great and inspiring start to a wonderful day. You're going to be around so people can come and chat with you, which I really encourage everybody to do. And thanks for the inspiration. And thanks for the stories. And keep it up.
Thank you very, very much, Martin and Doug. Audacity is one thing, but audacity with a purpose is something else. And Martin demonstrates that. To swim as he does for the reasons he swims and with the revelations that come from it is really remarkable. I wanted to remind the audience that we have a webcast audience also listening in, and they are tuning in at institute@thegoldengate.org. And I'd also like to remind everyone that you can follow the Institute on Twitter for live commentary coming from Turning the Tide. If you're tweeting during the event, please use hashtag number TTT2010. Okay, thank you. Our next panel is Technology and the Future of Cities, and will be moderated by a senior writer from Fortune magazine based out of the magazine's San Francisco bureau. Previously, he was a senior writer at Business 2.0, covering the venture capital community, new technology, and startups. Along with Andrew Tillen, his story, The New Instant Companies, was recognized by the World Leadership Forum as the best business story in the 2006 Business Journalist of the Year competition. Prior to joining Business 2.0, he was a senior writer at Red Herring. He has also worked at the Venture Capital Journal and the Washington Post. He has been a reporter for the Oakland Tribune, the Orange County Register, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, and he has freelanced for several Bay Area and national publications. He has also developed environmental stories for radio and television. Please welcome Michael Copeland. Thank you, Michael.
Thanks. I just want to say I vote for craziest man in the world. And nicest man in the world, too, so you maybe should add that to the end there from this thing. Thanks for that. That was great. So we're here to talk about technology and the future of cities. And while these guys get mic'd up, it's cities and technology have gone hand in hand since, cities were sort of came to be, and so in large part that's been a good thing. So clean water, sewage, electricity. But it's also raised some problems. I had a professor when I was back in grad school studying city planning, of all things, who thought that buildings should only be 3 stories tall so everyone could just walk up and down and you wouldn't need elevators. But now, of course, we have buildings. The newest one in Dubai is, I don't know, it's got its own atmosphere. It's so tall. So we have an interesting relationship with technology in our cities. And here to help me talk all about that is our esteemed panel. Chris, you look like you're ready to walk out first. So we have Chris Andrews, who's an urban design and project manager at Autodesk, which if you are an architect or an engineer, you know them very well. They do all the 2D and 3D software to help generate models and designs and all that. So Chris, grab a seat. Scott Elrod is a principal scientist and director of the Hardware Systems Lab at the Palo Alto Research Center, PARC. Used to be known as Xerox PARC. They invented the mouse, the graphical user interface, and I was down there talking about lasers a lot, I remember. So, Scott. And Peter Williams from IBM is a distinguished engineer. He is Mr. Big Green, and he helps run their Big Green Innovations Unit, which is an in-house incubator for international environmental businesses focused on carbon, water, and alternative energy. And lastly, and I wanted to bring up Rebecca Laus because she's got a little presentation to kick us off, is a computer scientist and the creator of Google Earth Outreach, which supports nonprofits, communities, and indigenous peoples around the world in applying Google's mapping tools to problems including environmental conservation, human rights, cultural preservation, and creating a sustainable society. So Rebecca, thanks for coming. And I know, Rebecca, you want to kick us off.
We need a couple minutes to set up.
All right.
So you want to talk?
All right. Well, I'm not going to talk, but so this is a. Can I sit with you guys? Is that all right?
Absolutely.
All right. This is a big subject, and I sort of want to kick things off with. Your view on the low-hanging fruit. And I also want to say for the audience that we want to make this as interactive as possible. So if you've got questions midstream, chime in, and we will redirect or do whatever is necessary. So, don't be shy about standing up and chiming in. So, Scott, maybe we can start with you. I mean, PARC's interest in this stems from what? And what are you guys seeing out there right now that gets you excited?
So we were spun out to be a separate company in 2002, and with that we created some new initiatives, and it was really the researcher interest in having an impact in the environment that led a group of us to form a clean tech program. I think the low-hanging fruit from my perspective in cities is really, it's all about buildings, really. And it ranges from things that are pretty low-tech, weatherization. It ranges from that to things that are very high-tech. One of the things we're working on is advanced air conditioning, and we've got some ideas around a way to make air conditioning 3 times more efficient than conventional air conditioners. So those kinds of technology changes are going to be needed, but at the same time, there's going to have to be a lot of work in retrofitting of buildings with fairly simple ideas.
So you guys are trying to boil the ocean right now. You're looking for simple, smart fixes that raise efficiency.
Yeah.
Peter, and you warned me that you can dive deep and go into just painful detail on lots of things. But water is one thing we talked about just this morning, and how you think that's one of the largest issues and problems facing us in our cities.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, few most developed countries, take the United States as an example, about 20% of this country's water, as far as anybody can tell, leaks out through holes in pipes. Sometimes you never detect the leak at all because it's leaking downwards or leaking away from the surface. Sometimes it's quite spectacular, as happens in Los Angeles, where they actually lost a fire truck down a sinkhole just recently. But if you fix that, you think in turn how much energy was used to pump that water in the first place. Between 3 and 5% of the US's energy is used to move and treat water. It's more in California for local reasons, but as a national average. So, you do do the math. You've got 5% of the country's energy being used to move water, and 20% of that is leaking out through holes in pipes. You dynamically optimize your pumps more efficiently rather than do it once a year or if ever, which is how most water agencies do it. You can save about another 10% of that energy. So pretty soon you're starting to talk about decent numbers and a decent impact on greenhouse gas emissions as well. So the low-hanging fruit is absolutely just managing what we've got better than we currently manage it.
And Chris, at Autodesk, you guys are sort of at a different end of the sort of spectrum here. I mean, you guys are at the front end of projects, but just tell us a little bit about Autodesk's involvement and what you're seeing in terms of projects that Autodesk is involved in.
Sure. So Autodesk, our customers fundamentally make stuff or redesign stuff, renovate stuff like old military buildings. Our goal is to help those customers make that stuff last longer, operate more efficiently, and do less harm, both while it's used and after it's retired. So whether it's your shoes, your running shoes, your car, roads, bridges, buildings, I suspect that much of the infrastructure and your daily things that you touched as you came in this morning were probably touched by an Autodesk designer at some point. Autodesk's got the power to influence 10 million designers, engineers, and architects who use our products to design the world around you. And our tremendous opportunity is the ability to do something we're doing today, which is to put sustainable design technology at the fingertips of those 10 million people who use our products. We're trying to make sustainable design easier, more accessible, and more achievable, and we're doing it at all ends of the spectrum. So the group that I'm in is concerned with infrastructure. We have a buildings group as well, and then there's a product manufacturing group. So we can look at things like a small company called Green Ocean Energy that operates out of Aberdeen. They actually came up with a new idea for a water turbine that is essentially a gigantic seesaw that takes up a couple acres of surface area in the ocean. And they were able to use our products not only to get out the end product better, which
this generates energy. Is that
it generates? It's a wave activated generator. That's right. And it kind of operates when the wave comes in, it goes up and spins the turbine, and when the wave goes the other direction, it reverses it and spins the turbine again.
So they designed it and spec'd it out?
They designed it entirely digitally. We call it digital prototyping, and they were able to hand off the design directly to manufacturers, so they didn't go through a wasteful design process, prototyping process. And then they also were able to generate visualizations that helped them go out and get investment from customers.
Okay, so one thing I want to back up and ask a question. There's a lot of talk about smart cities, smart grids, smart that, smart this, smart that. And that implies that our cities are dumb now. Are cities dumb? And I have real skepticism about how smart things are going to get anytime soon. But, how dumb are we in the kind of continuum? What's going to change it?
How dumb are we? Where do you start with the examples? I mean,
how dumb am I? Let's
many.
Put it on me.
You sit in that stream of traffic going over the Bay Bridge in the morning. Is that a smart thing to be doing? You look at water pouring out through holes in pipes. Is that a smart thing to allow to happen? You reflect that, I don't know, I can't remember, something like 3/4 of the energy that's put into the grid is never actually used to power anything. Is that a smart thing to be doing? So, yeah, it's pretty dumb.
I feel bad now for the...
How? What's the likelihood of improving it? Well, I mean, you know, IBM's been behind the whole Smarter Planet, Smarter Cities thing, and you've probably seen our advertising. Personally, I prefer to call it Common Sense Planet, Common Sense Cities. You know, let's just fix the basics first. Then you can talk about the real kind of space age stuff, you know. But just fix the basics.
Scott.
We actually, at Park, we have both hardware and software, and there are groups that do ethnography, so people who go out and actually study what individuals do. And what you find is that you can imagine what people might be doing in a particular setting, like a building or a home. And when you go out and actually observe them carefully, you find it's completely different. So we had one study looking at individuals in the home interacting with appliances where they were given cues about the amount of money it was going to cost to make a different choice. So I could delay the you know, turning on the dishwasher for 30 minutes, and I could save a few pennies. And what we found was that those instances of individual decisions over the course of the day, there's just not enough impact, and the money is too small. So what that leads to is the notion that you have to automate a lot of these things. You know, you have to have a person be able to specify what his or her preference is, and then let the system run automatically.
So energy saver, super energy saver might be a kind of a choice, a button I push, and then...
Yeah, it's a direction to go, and the automation of those things is really going to be required to make things smart, because people just don't have the time or really interest to attend to some of those little micro details.
Is it our homes or our offices that are sort of a larger problem? And our factories, for that matter? I mean, where is the effort best placed initially?
Depends what you mean. If you mean in terms of actually making a material impact on things like greenhouse gas emissions,
that's what I mean.
It would have to be with industry, things like the energy industry and so on. But if you mean in terms of building awareness of individuals about the problem and generating, you know, pressure to create a change, then you'd have to say it'd be in the home. So it's both.
So we have to do both at the same time.
Yeah, and I actually don't, the term smart versus dumb city, I think every generation attempts to make decisions as smart as possible according to whatever the drivers are. So whether it's been territory occupation in some cases, right, economic maximization, budget, fuel consumption, other types of resource consumption, I think we're now switching into sustainability and green mode, where now smart decisions are trying to be made according to sustainability and green metrics. What I think you find is that previously developed cities and infrastructure made decisions according to certain moral guidelines and economic resource guidelines. Now we've got a whole new set, and we have a whole new suite of technologies, both design technologies and monitoring technologies, metering technologies, to gather information, make better decisions, and now make more sustainable, greener projects and outcomes. And so I think what we're going to see is actually in some parts of what some of us chauvinists call the undeveloped world, we're actually going to see situations where they actually have more infrastructure that they can more easily replace.
Right.
And they're going to actually achieve smarter cities more rapidly than the quote-unquote developed world can. A great example, I think, is in South Korea. Actually, both IBM and Autodesk were in a project there and backed out, and now Cisco has taken over a project where they're going to be essentially building large Lego blocks that are city infrastructure. And so from the start of a project, design stage, through construction, through operations, they'll have detailed monitoring capability in this city that's predictable, that's known. You know, are you going to have fire alarms? Are you going to have CO2 meters, temperature? And so then what they do once they build this first city and prove it out, they're actually hoping to go and replicate this through at least 35 other city areas in China and India. That is going to be a heavily smart metered city.
So, I mean, a lot of what we're talking about here is better information and being able to act upon that information too, right? So, and I guess it goes in two steps, getting the better information. Google, I just want to say that if I go check my house on Google Maps, there's me putting my surfboard on my top of my car. going to work. So Google seems to have a lot of information, and
Are we going to start
data.
with that?
And so I hope you use it smartly, but let's see what you got here, Rebecca. Are you ready to fire it up?
Ready to go. So while we wait for that to come up, I try to interpret my work in the context of this panel, and fundamentally, what I work on is seeing is believing, and that many of the complex issues that we face today with respect to sustainability, whether it's in the city or in rural parts of the world, lack from a better understanding of the basic facts of the situation. And there isn't even a common understanding among all the stakeholders in these discussions about what's true. And even if people have the, quote, facts, they're often quite abstract. You have statistics, you have charts and whatever. People don't understand them, especially busy policymakers. I myself was involved in a campaign. On my private life, I'm a raging environmentalist. And there was a document to log 1,000 acres of redwoods in my community. It was a proposal that was 400 pages, and no one understood it. I remapped it in Google Earth, and in seconds you could understand what was at stake. And in fact, I was able to use Google Earth to prove that the plan was in fact illegal. And the Regulatory Commission overruled it, turned it down on that basis. I should say parenthetically that, thank you, during that process, the logging company and the landowner ridiculed me in the press for trying to use Google Earth, but they themselves had no ability to put factual information on the table that had any level of authority of what I was able to do with Google Earth. And that led the success of that grassroots environmental campaign, which I should say also involved a larger community, led to a number of groups all around the world contacting me, how can we do this? We had this feeling that Google Earth could be used to show what's at stake with environmental or humanitarian issues. This was back in 2005 when Google Earth had first come out, and most people thought all you could do was fly to your home. But in fact, in September 2005, Google Earth was used, in fact, when Hurricane Katrina hit, and the U.S. government was having trouble, shall we say, mobilizing an effective response. And the NOAA was flying over every hour, collecting near real-time updates on the advancement of the flooding, but there was no way to publish it for the benefit of the rescuers and the people trying to effect relief and response. They asked us to publish it, and so we, in fact, built a Google Earth visualization that we kept in real time up to date with what was going on, and they called us later and said it was used in combination with Craigslist to save the lives of more than 4,000 people in September 2005. So between the environmental applications and these humanitarian applications, we at Google suddenly went, maybe this tool has the ability to be more significant and meaningful for public benefit than we had originally planned. The original inventors were in the video game industry. They were not sort of involved with public societal issues. So what I wanted to do was show you just, I mentioned seeing is believing, but it's really more than that. I see it as seeing is believing, understanding, caring, and then acting. So here's one example. I'll show you a quick one. People are making fundamental discoveries about the world, believe it or not, using Google Earth. Last year, a new fringing coral reef was discovered off the coast of Western Australia by a desktop conservationist who was browsing our newly published imagery.
Wait, can you just tell me what a fringing coral reef is?
A fringing coral reef. This is a fringing coral reef and they're very rare and they're very vulnerable because it fringes the beach. That's why it's called a fringing coral reef. When his discovery was announced, they called him a desktop Darwin. He said, I feel like a bloody desktop Darwin, having discovered this. But it was more than just kind of a curiosity, because literally at that time, the government of Western Australia was making plans for an environmental impact statement to advance oil and gas exploration in the region. And obviously having an environmentally vulnerable reef like this is in fact making a difference in the planning. Similarly, in Appalachia, many of you may be aware of really one of the greatest environmental catastrophes in the United States. This is what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. calls it, which is mountaintop removal coal mining, where mountains are blown up, sometimes 800 vertical feet removed permanently for the extraction of coal to power all of our electricity. And it's very difficult to appreciate this from the ground. The land is private, and you can't get the scale of it. So one of those groups that contacted me after the redwood logging victory was a small grassroots organization, 5 people and a dog, basically in Boone, North Carolina, who they were raising money, and they were taking politicians once a year to fly over the coal fields and to see the more than 400 blown up mountains. But they said, could you help us do this virtually in Google Earth? And I said, absolutely. And this is the power. They know what's happening on the ground. We at Google don't know, but we are publishing every day updated imagery of our planet in extremely high resolution. So they created this annotated tour of a mine site. You look at this, you may not know what it is. In fact, this turns out to be a formerly healthy river channel that was filled with toxic debris. We're going to learn a little bit more about that in a second. It's considered remediated, legally remediated and recovered because of these little sprigs of grass. And this white strip down the middle is considered to be a recovered river channel. Okay, let's look at what's behind that. That's what's actually behind there. Toxic debris full of mercury, selenium, and other substances that are still leaching into the drinking water and making it undrinkable. Then let's talk about the human impact of these situations. In fact, the rural poor who live in the shadows of these coal mines, this tells the story of a 3-year-old toddler who was killed in his bed by a boulder coming off. And these landslides are destroying property all over the area. Another thing you can do is you can show historically what a region was like before these things happened. So the group went to this is what it was like before the mining, and in fact you can do a before and after. Then let's see, and I know I'm probably taking too long here, but don't get me started. And again, this is available to all of you. You can open Google Earth and you can see this yourself. This layer is built into Google Earth. These are the blast holes where the dynamite is exploding, and they tell the story of that. Finally, thank you for the threat notice here, you can embed video. We should be getting a audio off this.
They've just destroyed our way of life completely. Everything that the mountains meant to us has been destroyed. Since this land got disturbed by the cold.
Yeah, so let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to fast forward to what's the impact of all this, and how does it actually relate to the city? So first of all,
you guys can sit down, because this is what I want to get at too. Is the wider implications of all this.
Right. If we look at, people may think, well, this is abstract. This is happening somewhere far away. It doesn't really matter to me. What's the zip code here? Does anyone know? 94965. What's my connection? You may think that this is the only people using electricity from these coal fields may be in the east, but no, in fact, this is literally showing the mountains that were blown up in order to produce the electricity for the zip code here at Cavallo Lodge. And in fact, these are literally the connections. The power company who's buying the power, and each one of these is a mountain that was blown up to produce electricity for this particular place. So I think of this, and I think this is very important, as when I flip my light switch here and at Cavallo, what mountains were blown up? to give me my lighting. And that type of understanding is, I think, significant. There's one photo I wanted to show here. The Wall Street Journal covered this as activists start Googling, right? People learn their personal impact. So I'll pause there, and then there was one second one if we did have time later, which is, all right, I think I will have to pause. Then I will make the second point I was going to make, which is just, if we want to handle issues of sustainability, there's a community that we're not involving, which are the traditional and indigenous people of the world who have been living sustainably for generations and millennia. There's a second project we're doing with Amazon tribes, bringing them onto the internet, and they're showing the world what's at stake with tropical deforestation encroaching upon their land and solutions and ideas they themselves have for resolving this. They're entering the carbon marketplace to protect their forest. And I believe that we're going to have as much to learn, if not more, from them as they have to learn from us when they come on the internet. Internet broadband is coming down the east and west coast of Africa, and it's being put into the remote parts of the Amazon. And I think that dialogue, facilitated by the internet, is going to really give us hope and a chance to broaden the discussion.
Well, Rebecca, thanks. That leads to my sort of next phase of questioning for you guys, for all of you, is, if we put our crystal balls, bring them out, and look at things, and, with tools like this, with, sensors and, better information, if you sort of look 5-10 years down the road in our cities, what do you hope they look like, and what is different? So if we're sitting here 10 years from now, how does San Francisco and the Bay Area look differently, and then more broadly, whether it's Southeast Asia or India or Africa, other places, what changes are we going to see?
Well, certainly you would hope that people have started to apply technology to making infrastructures that are more responsive to situations. Great examples: combined sewer overflow. San Francisco has a combined sewer overflow system, which means that they have to manage that system very carefully, because otherwise, if they have a storm, they end up flushing sewage out into San Francisco Bay. A number of cities have that. It's a cheaper way to build the system, but you need to manage it much more carefully than a lot of cities do. Let me stress straight away that I'm not making that comment about San Francisco, but there are plenty of documented cases of cities around the country where those CSO systems have overflowed, flushed all kinds of toxic stuff out into the local waterway.
I know, I surf in the ocean. I've gotten weird rashes because of that.
You understand that, right?
That's nasty.
So it's just an example. Being able to manage that better.
Yeah, I was particularly taken by the comments that Alex made yesterday about the impact that individual consumers can have, essentially voting with their pocketbook. So you don't have to worry about shareholder lawsuits. You're giving feedback to corporations according to what you are choosing to buy, pay attention to, et cetera. And I think the ability to have ubiquitous mobile devices which know about your preferences, they know where you are, they know what shopping you've done in the past and what you want in the way of sustainability, will cue you into the restaurant nearby that has the food you want, that is the most sustainable.
I mean, we're starting to see a little bit of that. I mean, Google goggles, not to go all Google all the time, but anyway, you take a picture of something, and instead of saying, like, look, you want pizza? Here's a great pizza. It's maybe you shouldn't be eating pizza, or you shouldn't be buying stuff here for these reasons or whatever.
Exactly.
Huh. And I definitely think that translates to what's happening outside the U.S. and Europe. 10 years puts us in Bell's Law territory, 10 times smaller devices, 10 times cheaper. I think we're going to start to see, especially in cities that are being developed from the ground up and places that are being re-engineered or refurbished, we're going to see more what is called augmented reality technology, not only for the mass consumer. So in San Francisco, you're going to be driving your car and be notified when you're, of what the optimal path is to save time and fuel. But I suspect that in some of the developing world, where we'll have even smarter cities growing up more quickly, we're going to actually have engineers and product designers and architects be able to go out and superimpose prospective designs on the real world using a tablet PC or glasses, and actually give themselves and their customers the ability to stand at a spot, hold up a little device, and see what that building is going to look like in the future, and possibly even have some indication for things like how thermally efficient is it going to be, and so that they can see, is it going to look nice to me? Are people going to want to live and work here? And is it going to perform well? Is it going to save my city money? Is it going to save me money? So, and energy.
One other impact is that people will understand the implications of what they do a bit better, and a great example of that is what they're now just beginning to find out about how pharmaceuticals break down in the sewage stream and in fresh water. So you have, just one example I read about recently, iopamidol, which is a contrasting agent for MRIs. You have your MRI or your X-ray, and they might inject iopamidol into the joint. Very safe, very inert chemical normally. So you've had your MRI, you go to the bathroom, you flush that out of your body. Starts to interact with the hydrocarbons in the sewage stream, starts to interact with the chemicals that they use to treat sewage, and it forms a class, one of the decomposition byproducts is a class of chemicals called iodated cyanogens. And these things are about the most genotoxic chemicals that anybody ever measured. And there they are, they're out there in the water. But with the point being that we don't understand the implications of the things we're doing. You ask me what's going to happen in 5 to 10 years' time, we'll start to have that understanding. And once we get that understanding, we can then start to figure out, okay, so what's a sensor that actually detects that stuff, because it doesn't exist today.
Who's going to pay for it? I mean, is Google going to pay for it all?
Well, you're giving me an entree, which is google.org, actually. We just started a project that I'm leading on the engineering front to help create a global forest information system and empower people to measure and monitor the protection of the world's forests. Because under the Copenhagen climate change negotiation and now subsequently, there's all the nations of the world, there seems to be consensus. The most successful thing that came out of Copenhagen was agreement by a number of nations that we've got to stop cutting down the world's forests because tropical deforestation accounts for arguably up to 20% of greenhouse gas emission. And a monetization scheme called RED, Reducing Emissions from Deforestation and Forest Degradation, has been created for the developing world to pay the rainforest nations not to cut the trees down. But how do you verify, measure, and monitor? You're not going to have UN inspectors in every hectare of the Amazon forest. So google.org, we are building a system that is like Google Earth on steroids. In Google Earth, you can view things, but you can't measure and you can't analyze. Now what we're building is an Earth information system. It's called Earth Engine. We're going to be launching it this year, and all of it's paid for by google.org. We're offering it to the world as a not-for-profit service. We're going to have all of the world's satellite imagery and environmental data, such as pollution sources or air quality or carbon emissions and so on, and make all of that available in a scientific analysis platform that, as being Google, it will also be very accessible to consumers. So hopefully.
That's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So stay tuned.
Google still frightens me a little bit, I have to say, but that's good stuff. I want to open it up to questions. Scott, while we're waiting.
Yeah, just a quick thing. So we had a whole group doing sensor networks at Park, which is, and the notion is you deploy large numbers of sensors all over the place, and then you can use them for many different applications. And one of the big issues, we ended that group, that activity, actually, because one of the big issues is the business model. Who pays for it? Who pays for that initial installation? There are cases where it's starting to happen, parking meters in cities, people are starting to do that, traffic, certainly smart buildings and building management systems, but the really widely deployed sensors that are everywhere, it's a real question how that gets paid for.
Question?
We should talk, actually. Seriously, not to interrupt, but part of this Earth Engine is that it will be a living, breathing, real-time model of our planet so that we can all have a better understanding of what's going on and we can act in a more timely fashion.
I know HP is doing something like that right now.
And we are financially sponsoring various projects, so sponsoring an environmental sensor network in sensitive areas, for example, as a starting point. We should discuss that. And there's going to be a presentation later today by Project Kasai, which is about the Pacific Garbage Patch. Well, they understand now, and they explain to me, garbage gets dumped into the ocean when there's major rainstorms that happen in LA, Tokyo, you can imagine, and it all floods the garbage down into the harbor, and they want to have a real-time alerting system. Then the kayakers will gather with nets, and they'll gather the garbage when it comes out you can imagine these alerts going out over, smartphones or whatever. And so it doesn't get into the garbage patch. So you can imagine we could act much more nimbly with something like that.
Kayakers are nimble.
So part of what we've been hearing about we've been hearing about science-driven business solutions. But part of what we haven't been hearing about is essentially the new culture that has to undergird all that. Would you talk a little bit about that?
This is that question of, like, do you do it in the home or in the factory, right? You need to create awareness.
I think it's a huge issue. I mean, my background is political science. And one of the fascinating things, fascinating in kind of a horrible way as well as a good way, is, okay, so you've got a consumption-driven society like the United States or Western Europe, and if you're going to make cities more sustainable, you're actually going to have to change the way people think about personal freedoms. You're going to make it more expensive to drive into city centres. You're actually going to make it more expensive to drink water. You're going to make it more expensive to consume electricity. What's the political interplay between that? We're already starting to see it. But the politics of that is something that I think is going to play out for the next 20 years. It'll take extreme manifestations like sticking your head in a bucket and pretending that global warming isn't happening. Or it'll take the other extreme manifestation, which is kind of, the sort of extreme ecological kind of consciousness that isn't practical for most individuals most of the time. But at the same time, what is the political ramifications of that? And the political ramifications of saying to people, actually it's going to cost you rather more to drive into the centre of, pick a city, Cincinnati or Buffalo or, Denver or wherever. It's interesting to see how it plays out. It arguably cost the Mayor of London his job with the traffic pricing scheme, and IBM builds traffic pricing schemes. It worked well in Stockholm. They love it. It's a lot less popular in London.
Rome, it's fine though, right? Doesn't Rome have a similar kind of...
Yeah, they get it. They're building one, right?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we should look at examples like the local food movement. I believe it's the solution to answer your question. It's going to be individual actions. It's going to be government actions. It's going to be NGOs and policy. Kayakers are going to solve it. But, okay, I'm putting my Google hat on, but this is my personal hat too, which is I think the more people have quality information, the more they can make informed decisions. And there's evidence that people will do that. We have something called Power Meter, which actually lets people see in real time what is their power consumption. And just by people having that information, their power consumption goes down by 15%. You don't have to tell them to do anything. You don't have to harangue them. Just by knowing it, their consumption goes down. Local food movement, Alice Waters is going to be here later today. People are buying from urban farms. They want to know where is their food coming from because of the cost, the hidden cost of that food environmentally. And I just think information will help here.
We have one more question. I apologize. You guys could have jumped in at any time. I'm going to go in the middle here. You with your finger up on that one.
So probably everybody's familiar with this, but I think the point about trade-off of freedom and money and other things. Singapore has had this kind of system for 20 years.
Exactly.
And you pay a tremendous tax on a car when it comes into the country.
And would you want to live in Singapore?
There are other kinds of issues, but, if you believe in this business about the commons and that some resources are indivisible.
That's my point. I personally have no difficulty agreeing with you. But there's about another 300 million people in this country that would have a big problem.
Well, all I'm trying to say is that you pay your money and take your choice. Okay, it's not actually about the government restricting you. It is saying how much do you want to pay for your license to access different parts of the city, and they've now got transponders which charge you not only in the zone but by the time of day.
That was a comment, not a question, but we don't have any more time. I want to thank the panel very much, and you guys can buttonhole them afterwards. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, Chris, Scott, Rebecca, and Peter. If I can have everybody's attention, please, we have a slight venue change I'd like to announce. We're about ready to go into 2 concurrent sessions that will begin in 5 minutes. The first one called Accelerating the sustainability wave will take place immediately outside the chapel, not in the verbena room. I want to make that point, not in the verbena room. The other session, which will be here in the Mission Blue Chapel, is Adaptation and Evolution in Media, and will begin in 5 minutes.